This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stockbox interview. Joining us today is Scott Kynes, the CEO of Corcel PLC, and David Lenegas, one of the vendors of the Mount Weld project that has been announced today that Corcel have exercised their option. So hello to you both. Scott, let's come to you first. Welcome back onto Stockbox. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you much.
And David, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, thank you both for joining us today. So Scott, let me come to you first then. Can you just give us some background to this transaction and why Corcel have decided to proceed with the option exercise?
Yeah, we've been looking at the asset for a couple of months now, working with David and his extended team out of Australia, largely some technical guys there, on the project, on how it fits into the greater rare earth space and how it might fit into Corcel's portfolio. And the more we looked at it, the more excited, frankly, we became about it. And so it was a pretty easy decision, I think, for the board to make to go ahead and exercise the option, which involves the upcoming issuance of some shares, and then we get right into planning, what we think is going to be a pretty high impact drill program for early next year.
Excellent, and this all fits into Corcel's objective of the battery metals space, doesn't it? With the rare earth, of course, being a very important element that will go into the green economy.
That's right. I mean, if you look at the magnets and things that come out of rare earth elements, they go into wind turbines. It's all part of the same ecosystem, and so I think we felt that this was pretty much bang on target with our stated and executed strategy.
Excellent. Okay, well, David is joining us. He knows the project very well, so thank you for coming on today, David. Could you perhaps give a little bit more detail around this project and what it's all about, and particularly with regards to the neurology of the I think just across the road, isn't it, another rare earths mine?
Yeah, look, where this originated was Scott reached out to me some months ago and said, look, I'm looking for some very exciting rare earth type projects in Australia. And I work very closely with two guys, Peter Gianni and Rob Jewson, who have built a number of multi-$100 million, in fact, a couple of billion-dollar companies in Australia with putting in some exciting assets. And I said to Scott, look, let me reach out to the guys to see what they've got interesting in the rare earth space. Mm-hmm. And the Mount Weld project came up, and the nice thing about this is it's very close to Mount Weld, the biggest rare earth mine in Australia. It's owned by Lynas. Lynas has got a market capitalisation of punching sort of somewhere around about $8 billion. It's the largest producer of niobium in Australia, or in the world, I think. And niobium is a very key element. But the interesting thing about the geology of Mount Weld, it's a huge, huge carbonatite. So even though, Lynas are mining right now the niobium element of the carbonatite, it also has huge reserves and resources of other exotic rare earths like yttrium and dysprosium. It really covers the whole suite. Mm-hmm. So, at the moment it's producing for the world markets niobium, and this lease is actually on the main road, literally 1.5 kilometres from the treatment plant. And there are 4 magnetic anomalies which have been previously identified, but no one's ever drilled them. And I said to Scott, look, this just smells like and looks like something that needs to be drilled. And being so close to Mount Weld, the chances are they could in fact be carbonatites. And if you look at what really drives the sex in Australia right now, it's either lithium projects or rare earths. I mean, there's a company in Western Australia called WA1, limited listed on the ASX, and they hit niobium in the desert in Australia, right on the boundary, pretty much between Western Australia and the Northern Territory. Mm-hmm. Their share price went from 20 cents to $3. They banked an oversubscribed placing of $10 million at $2. That was literally a week and a half ago because one drill hole hit significant amounts of niobium.
Mm-hmm.
And even that is still less grade than the niobium that Mount Weld is producing. So rare earths is hot. Now, the nice thing about this project is it's not an exploration license, it's a prospecting license. And prospecting licenses, you can do work straight away. So exploration licenses, you've got to go through a whole lot of issues with,
Mm-hmm.
native title, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Robbie Jewson, who's a very experienced geologist, and I've sort of been working with Scott and said, look, the next thing we need to do here is invert the magnetics, which will give us a 3D picture to top a target. And then very quickly in the new year, sort of end of January, February, go and put a number of holes into the top of these 4 targets. Now, we don't know if the top of targets, 60 metres, 80 metres or 100 metres down. It's not going to be that deep. And it's fairly accessible by, conventional cheap RC drilling. So there's 4 targets that have never been drilled for rare earths. And I think it's really exciting.
Excellent. And do you know about any of the history? Has there been any exploration? You've mentioned the mag targets that have been done, but nothing was actually followed up. So any idea on the previous historical activity or work that's been done
Mark,
in the area?
Historically, there are a number of very shallow RC holes, RAB holes put down, rotary air blast holes, which literally only went down 20 to 30 metres looking for gold.
Mm-hmm.
And those holes were put down, 20, 30 years ago. And in those days, people weren't even looking for rare earths.
Mm-hmm.
So they were pretty much general surface exploration pattern holes that were drilled all over Western Australia as they were at the time. So that's really the only exploration that's been done on this entire area, apart from the magnetics work, which has highlighted these 4 targets.
Okay.
And broadly, I would just jump in and say the project's been held by a private operator for many years as well. So this is really the first time, a public company is involved, which is a pretty exciting opportunity.
Yeah, it's been held by one group for 26 years.
Indeed. Indeed.
Robbie Jewson and Peter Journey ourselves picked it up and said, okay, this needs to find a new home.
Yeah.
So I think it's, bang for its buck. It's a project that if this hits a sniffer rare earths, this could really, really put Corcel on the map. And if London doesn't pick up the momentum because this thing hits rare earths, then Australia certainly will. There'll be joint venture partners coming out from everywhere.
Yeah, and I think more broadly too, it moves us into an exploration phase, which, to be fair, has not been something we've done a great deal of over the last couple of years. I mean, some of our historic PNG projects are pretty mature; they're kind of at the late stage of licensing and things like that. And I think we're all pretty excited to be back in the kind of business of of doing these sort of high upside early stage projects.
Well, I think that's very important, Scott, isn't it? Because we've talked a lot about Corcel before, and yes, lots of good projects that sort of slowly trying to get there. I think, but the mining side of it, the exciting getting that hole in the ground, the truth detector, and making that discovery is something that Corcel hasn't been had in its portfolio for quite a while. So, I mean, you're talking here about drilling quite early, as soon as sort of January, February, you're going to define those high priority targets. Is that realistic then, that you can actually get out there and drill? And also, have you got the funds to back it up?
Yeah, no, I think it is. And I think that's, I was just going to say, that's one of the appeals of the project. I'll let Dave jump in here in a second, but basically that it was ready for drilling. I mean, it's not that common, obviously. Usually you have to do quite a bit of months of preparation. But as Dave kind of outlined, this project is ready to go. And that was one of the appeals, to be honest.
Yeah, if I can jump in there too, Mark, the location of this is pretty ideal for early drilling. Kalgoorlie is one of the great mining centres of Western Australia. This is just a short drive from Australian perspectives north of Kalgoorlie, near Laverton. Laverton and Leonora are also big mining centres of Western Australia. So logistics are good. Drill rigs are available, geologists, drillers, sample labs, the whole lot. It literally sits on the doorstep. A lot of exploration in Australia is up in the Kimberleys, the Pilbara, the middle of the Northern Territory. I mean, the logistics to even go and start a drilling program there are quite horrendous. Plus, the other thing is the weather. Even though it gets hot in Kalgoorlie and Leonora and Laverton in the summertime, it doesn't get exposed to the sorts of torrential rain that affects the big exploration up in the Pilbara. So getting in early, I mean, I've got a number of companies that I run in Western Australia. We're pretty much shutting down till March, April up in the Pilbara area. Whereas the nice thing about Kalgoorlie is you can really drill pretty much right through the year, except for extended holiday periods.
Excellent. And how quickly do you think you'll be able to tell once you get those drills turning and the course coming up? How quickly are you hoping to get an answer as to if you've hit something?
No, you can see it visually. These carbonatites are fairly visual.
Okay.
So, and there's a lot of exploration for rare earths going on in the Gascoyne, which is in the western part of Western Australia. So the knowledge base of rare earth mineralisation, what it looks like in the drill chips, is accelerated quite significantly. So, yeah.
Okay, so you're able to tell very quickly. So hopefully a nice, exciting start to the new year for Corcel with this new project and some drilling getting on quite rapidly. And as you said, David, the market for rare earths and lithium is very hot in Australia. So if something is found in London, doesn't really pick it up, the Australians hopefully will, and that will put the spotlight onto Corcel as a major operator in the area.
People want to buy the dream that we actually hit something, and I think we've got a fairly good shot with 4 targets, and we're literally 1.5 kilometres away from Mount Weld's massive carbonatite.
Mm-hmm.
These are the only 4 magnetic targets within a radius of basically 10 or 15 kilometres of Mount Weld. So there will be something creating that magnetic signature. We just got to drill it and find out what it is.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Scott, do you have any final thoughts? I don't know if you want to touch on the general sort of year for Corcel and looking into next year with the...
like I said, I think we're looking forward to 2023 to, getting our team mobilized and the prospect drilled out. And obviously we'll be putting results out and updates along the way. And we're excited about the future here.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, David Lendergas and Scott Kites from Corcel PLC for your time today.
Thank you much.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.